Okay, Jannik, thank you very much for being here with us. It's a pleasure. He was my boss, but I have to say that more than a boss, he was a leader. And it's a pleasure to have you here with us. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Yes, so I founded different companies throughout time, something in telecommunication, something with websites in the 90s, and platforms, mobile platforms, and as well within the fitness industry and now travel. Yeah.
Okay, could you tell me what happened with it, with the past companies?
Yes. So one of my, actually, I didn't even mention, I've also been a company owner of a cleaning company. So performing cleaning, but it didn't really get that far. I was the only employee. So I was doing all the dirty work, so to say, so to speak. But I did have a cleaning company when I was like teenager as well. That was good times.
Wow.
In some ways, or not. But anyway, one of the most successful companies I had as a teenager was I developed a major mobile platform, and that was in the very early days of people having cell phones. And one of the versions of cell phones started coming out with the ability to create your own ringtones and logos on the phone. And now, Guader, I think you're a little bit younger than I am. You don't have to answer that question, but I
want to say, how old are you?
So I'm in the mid-30s.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so you are a little bit younger than I am, and maybe you won't even recall this like development in time. Maybe you just had a cell phone in your hand when starting in school, but I didn't. Cell phones was part of maybe 7th grade or something for my role, and in 8th grade I started like doing some experiments with these ringtones on the phone, and I thought, how can I share this? So I started composing one of my first websites in Denmark called mobiles.dk. And mobiles.dk was this full archive of ringtones and logos that you could create and get to your phone. And I was like, I just did it out of like curiosity and fun, but I very soon learned that this was like this was big business, because people was looking for stuff like this and they were willing to pay for it. So before there was anything with credit cards online and you could pay for stuff online, I just created my own sales funnel, and you would be able to buy these ringtones and logos if you walk down, and this is correct, you need to walk down to your bank. You needed to actually tell the person in the other side of the desk the account number of my account, and you needed to write your phone number as a message in that withdrawal of money. And in that way, I looked up online. I was one of the few people, I think, back then who had an online banking. The bank was still in a big mystery of why I needed that. But I could actually sit in my basement, look up online if people had paid, walk down to the bank, pay this amount, and I would then able to ship them the logo electronically. And I did that for a long time together with one of my friends. And in 8th grade, as I told you, I started this, and a big company did see a bigger opportunity in this, and they asked us to sell the business to this company and become employees of the companies. So that was in start 9th grade that we exited my first business, you could say. We sold the websites for a pretty good amount, and we were then hired in as employees for 4 years. So I remember I was making more money than my teacher at that time. And that was kind of annoying to him, I remember. That was my first experience as an entrepreneur and also selling the business. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So Can you tell me what's the hardest task to run a business?
The hardest task, I think, is acknowledging that you can't do everything yourself, and it's not possible to do everything you want to. It's like you need to limit yourself and you need to focus. So your mind is constantly thinking about all the stuff you need to do and all the things you could do and what you could benefit of, and it's sometimes even hard getting to sleep at night because you have all these thinkings and you need to execute on it, and I think that's one of the hardest things about being. So yeah, what do? I mean, I think I've become better at time with being able to disconnect in some way, and one of the I think best tricks to actually be disconnected is having kids. So when I come home from a long day in the office in the afternoon, I get home to my wife and my two kids, and there's no mercy, so to say. So if you had a bad day in office or anything related to it, your kids don't care. I have two boys, one at 2 and one at 5, and they just like embrace you with their love, and they are like doing all fun stuff and joking around, and it's so enriching in so many ways to have kids because they don't really have issues in that way. They can cry if they feel bad, and 1 second later they can be the happiest people in the world. So they can just change the mood. So having kids is the best trick for an entrepreneur, I think, to get your mind off things. I love the most that I can create my own day. Maybe it's an overused sentence to say that I'm my own boss. I wouldn't even say that because I think it's a little bit too, it's not really describing the real world. I think the best thing is you are the creator, you are the inventor, you are the one that are able to set things to see and see the result of it. And there's only one to blame if things doesn't happen the way you thought it would be or how you intended it to be. That's you. It's on your own. So I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being an entrepreneur, that you are able to create stuff and it's your own stuff. The bad thing is tied into the guilt. I think you're conscious and your guilt of not being able to put things up on what you really want to achieve, and it's all on your own, and so to say, and it's sometimes hard to really relax and sit back because you're desperate to make a change, and you're committed to it. And there's a big responsibility when you commit yourself for something. At least that's how I feel. And you feel bad if you're not able to do the stuff that you set yourself up to. Yeah.
You mentioned before that the most important thing to be successful in a business is to be focused. What do you do to be focused?
I say no to stuff. I say no to stuff that are distracting or not creating value, and there's so many opportunities on your table all the time of people who want to sell you something, or people who want to use your knowledge for something, or leverage the position that I have. And it's all in good mind and in good spirit that people want the best for you. But it's very, very important that if you want to be able to change things and move ahead and create and invent, you need to say no to some stuff and say yes to other stuff. And you need to be the one that are in charge of those decisions and not just let yourself tempt into one way that someone wants you to take. So I think that's the focus that is most important. Yeah.
And what has been the most difficult decision that you have ever made in your life?
I think that at one time I was running a really good business in Copenhagen where I live, and I had a good business going, and I had a good business partner back then, but I didn't really feel satisfied. Things were just running smoothly. I was earning money. I was going to my business every day, but I wasn't really inspired anymore. I wasn't really feeling it anymore. So I decided to call up my partner, and I had been partnering with him for 7 years at that time. And I told him that I need to get out. Whatever it takes, you can buy all my business for $1. Here it is. I need to leave. And he was very surprised back then, and I think he still is. But I left everything. I left everything behind, and I went traveling for half a year alone. I visited parts of Asia and Australia and New Zealand for half a year, and when I returned home, I had nothing. I'd left everything, and I think that's one of the hardest decisions I had to make, and one of the quickest decisions I've ever made, but one of the best decisions I've ever made. I didn't really feel, why should I still be doing something where I don't feel satisfied? I don't feel that I enrich new people. I don't feel that there's new stuff that I can do. I had kind of reached my limit, so to say. So I had taken my business to a good position, but I couldn't really take it further. So if everything was just stable, it was a good business, but it was stable, and it became kind of boring, and you couldn't really tell the difference between one day and the other. And when things become in that state, I need to move on and take a decision. And I always blame people for saying, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do this." And there's always something you can do. You always have a choice. And so in that way, I had to walk the mile myself, because I was blaming myself for not getting anywhere. So I had to do something, and I had always been thinking about traveling. So now was the time.
Amazing. Such an inspiring story. Thank you for sharing. So nowadays, how do you find motivation? What reason makes you keep going?
Yeah, that's a good question, especially having a travel company during pandemic, which has lasted almost a year now. What keeps me going? It's amazing that I haven't really. I mean, I've never had an issue going to work with the stuff that I do now, even though there's a pandemic. I find it. I find it as very interesting times. I can be in a bad mood, and I can be in a good mood during this pandemic. But I always leave or always depart to my office in open-minded and kind of curious on what will the day bring. And I feel that every day. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. So what would you like to know, back in the past when you first started and you didn't know?
What I would like to have known, that's a good question. I mean, it's a tricky question, because I mean, you need to accept that you as an entrepreneur and putting things to life and everything, you need to fail a lot, and you need to accept that failing is a way of achieving your goals. So without being able to fail, I wouldn't have accomplished anything. But what have I failed the most with? I mean, there's a lot. There's something every week. I think that for the part of LuggageHero, I sometimes neglect how much time you need to also invest in your team and your employees. I sometimes take for granted that they're as motivated as I am. And I like to think that way, and I give people a lot of freedom. I give them a lot of responsibility because I think of them as entrepreneurs as well. But sometimes I need to distinguish myself from my team members and acknowledge that they're not the owner of the business, and they don't see things as I do. So I think I've sometimes failed on not seeing that full perspective every time. I think that's something that I am improving on and would like to even improve.
And what advice could you give to an entrepreneur that have just started his business?
Always find the way of proving your business in the most cost-effective way. A lot of the businesses that I've been starting always started with a very minimal product and a product that you could just test on one person. And I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that are starting businesses today are inspired by the big entrepreneurs doing major things, and they want to start out having a major platform, being able to do everything in the world. But it's all about just finding one pain and solving that one pain for one customer, and you have a fit. You have a proof. You have proof that your product is able to solve it, and from there on, it's a matter about creating proof of business by scaling your idea. But it's the first step that are the most important, that you actually create value for the customer who are intended to buy your product. So just take it in small steps.
Okay, so the message could be just start small and keep growing in the way, but don't pretend to build a big business since the beginning, because that's not gonna work.
Yeah, it's the other way around. You don't start on the top of the mountain from day one. You build your way up. So start thinking on the very small task that you need to accomplish, and it's also much more helpful for you to visualize your first customer. It's just one customer. You need to just find one, and don't let it be your mom. So you need to find one that is not your friend, mom, girlfriend, or boyfriend, or whatever. You need to find one real customer who values what you do and could put a price on it. Because no matter what, in the end of the day, 99% of all products need a price label on it, and you need to be able to earn money on it. So being able to do that will take you far. So the most important department, yeah, that's a good question. It's very hard to tell, right? Really, what department is most crucial. In my company, you need a support department, and you need an expansion department. You need an account management department. You need a marketing department. You need a development department, and you need the whole management one. I mean, I don't really think you could do without one of them. During this pandemic, we've been decreasing some of departments, especially the expansion one, right? Of good reasons, but so I think it's really hard to say which one you would survive without. Yeah.
Okay, just try. Pick one.
I only have one choice. All right. Maybe management then. My own department.
Okay.
I could go, really.
Okay.
I think they would be doing great without me.
Actually, you did. You have experienced that, how to be kind of yourself running a business. I was saying that you demonstrate that during this pandemic, that happened to you, that you have to take decisions about, like not having all the departments that you used to have. So you just did it, like just being yourself, running a company once everything was up and running, you needed to stop it and just be yourself.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
So your question is that how I felt. Is it a specific question about the pandemic?
Actually, about how did you feel like running with all the tasks that like other people were doing, but now you needed to do it by yourself. I mean, not now, but like at the beginning of the pandemic, you had to run it by yourself. So how did you feel about it?
I mean, yes, I was alone in the office, you could say. In during the start of the pandemic, everyone was sent home, but in some way we still live in this technical age, so you can still get a hold of people and speak to them, and they can still uphold some of their responsibilities. So I wouldn't say that I was that much alone. It felt in some ways like you're alone when you're in an office. You are normally surrounded by people everywhere, and then you're suddenly all alone. But we still had meetings where we talked it and about it and everything. But I think the biggest thing was that we were not really able to do anything. It was like knocking our heads against the wall all the time. So that made it really impossible to get anywhere. So it didn't really matter if people were there or not. So yeah, it feels strange. The story that I came to remember just the other day, which was actually a very, very important step that I've not told that many people. Because the usual story you would hear would be that I traveled to Barcelona with my girlfriend and I stayed in an apartment and I couldn't get rid of my luggage, and the host recommended me to find a local shop to leave my stuff at. And I was actually also able to do that, and I forgot everything about that experience. That's the story that I usually tell in much more details than I just did, because I wanted to make it short. Because you can hear that you can read that story everywhere. But there's another thing to it, I think, and that is that when I came up with this idea, I was in a full-time position at a research facility in Denmark, a well-known one, and I had something else in mind. I was on my way to become a PhD student. Or first I needed a candidate, and then I needed and I was looking to become a PhD. So I was making something entirely different than entrepreneurship. But I had this idea on mind because I started renting out on Airbnb myself, and people were asking of places to store luggage. And I was like, is this really true? Is this no one who solved this issue? And I was kind of inspired and intrigued by that. And but to tell you the tipping point, actually, the tipping point for developing LuggageHero came kind of out of the blue, because I'd started thinking about the idea, and I thought, will shops actually accept to have luggage stored? So I biked around Copenhagen and I left small notes in a lot of shops. I think it was 30 shops in the beginning. Notes about the idea in very small details, and they could get a hold of me if they thought it would be a good idea for them. So I left this note in all of these shops, and I went back to my work desk and I started working again. And it lasted weeks before I heard even one reply. But that one reply, he texted me a message and saying, he would like to hear more. And I was like, shit, someone is actually interesting. So I called him up. I told him more in details about the idea, and he was like, I hear what you say. I think it's a good idea, but you know what, Jannik? I'm not up for it. I don't think that it would be a good fit for me. And this was a wine shop, and he was selling liquor and everything. And his shop was just near one of the biggest traffic hubs in Copenhagen. And this young entrepreneur himself, he was an entrepreneur as well, he was saying, it's a good idea, but I'm not up for it. And I was like, why are you not up for it? Think about it. Think about all the booze, wine, liquor that people buy at airports, and you don't want this customer to visit your shop just before he's going to the airport to actually buy something from your shop instead. Totally. And he was like, hang on, Jannik, I think you're right. You have a point. I'm up for it. I'm on. I was like, shit, I have my first shop, but I don't have a system. I don't have a customer. I don't have anything. But his name was Morten. I remember Morten from Denmark, and he was a true entrepreneur. Still is, I think. I'm not in contact with him anymore, but he was actually, I think, one of the main drivers for me to really go ahead with the idea, execute on it, because if he hadn't responded on these letters, I think I would have been in a different position today. If I hadn't gotten that text message from him, and if I hadn't really convinced him, and if he hadn't said yes, I don't think there would be a LuggageHero, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, and what do you do to make a business from an idea?
So what do I do to make a business from an idea? I always think about the value that I give people and what would be a fair price. What would be the price that most people would accept? And yeah, I always think about making a business where you actually earn money. There's a lot of pre-revenue businesses out there. That's kind of been a new buzzword, and I'm sure that everyone is saying that Facebook was a pre-revenue story, but there's not that many of these stories that actually stick. Because a lot of the cases with pre-revenue, they don't really get to the degree where they can make money. So I always value to create businesses where you can make money from the first day. So yeah.
Okay, amazing. And I would love to talk about the logo. Why a hero? Why LuggageHero?
There's actually a story behind that as well, because what not that many people know is that LuggageHero used to be called Droppen Local. So Droppen Local was in fact the first original name for LuggageHero, and that was changed about a year later from when it all started. So it started being Droppen Local, but people had a hard time hearing exactly what I said when I presented it as Droppen Local and what was it all about. So the LuggageHero was something that came up because the team, when we developed on this, we called ourselves heroes, and we were like, and we often talked about luggage. So we were like, are we luggage heroes? Yeah, we are. And I looked up the domain and I found it, and I could buy it for like, I think 1,000 euros or something. So we just decided to change the name. No, I didn't. And I think I've probably been one of the most naive people when it comes to the pandemic. I didn't really believe in much of all the fuss about it in the beginning. And there were rumors about the pandemic in January too, but they were still kind of centered around China and started a little bit in Italy at that point. So I wasn't really that worried about it. I thought it was very similar to the previous warnings about like the bird flu and everything related to that. So I think I've been one of the most naive ones. No, one of the reasons that I was holding back on the expansion and thinking more about optimization was due to our strategy. Our strategy has never been to just be in a lot of cities. No, our strategy has always been to be relevant in the cities that we are in. So if you are a customer, you hear about a concept in a city by a local host or Airbnb host or anything, you hear about LuggageHero. It's not really much worth if there's only 2 shops available and 2 of them are either out of capacity or closed hours, and maybe like 15-20 minutes walk outside of the center of the city. So for me, it's all about driving convenience, bringing convenience to customers, and you don't do that by not having available spots and convenience to your customers. So that's why I've always been sticking to the belief that we need to optimize as long as there's reason to do it. And there's a lot of reason to do it in all the existing cities that we're already operating in. We can bring even more convenience by having better locations, better opening hours, more capacity, because the truth is that we've been very popular in our cities, and we can't just rely on the existing network we have. We need to build it out all the time. And I'd rather have a really, really good experience in one city than just like have good experience in another one, or a really bad one. So yeah, that's the thinking behind that strategy.
Yeah, actually, I have to say that sometimes was really tough to optimize a market. It was impossible sometimes. But yeah, sometimes like you just need to wait a little bit, or like everything is changing. So maybe a hotel or a shop that wasn't there before, maybe now it is. So you just need to take the right chance to partner up.
Yeah. Exactly. It is even harder to optimize something that is existing, because one thing is that you already have some partners on, and you've probably been trying to get some partners on which said no before in the past, and you're still trying to get them on because they would be a really good spot for you. They would drive value for your customers and everything. So it's the long, hard run, but that's what tells you apart from your competitors, because if something is easy, everyone can do it. So it's about finding that uniqueness, and I think that's one of the reasons we are market leaders in both London and New York City, is that we really pushed on. We pushed to become the best and the best coverage in these cities, and we still are, and we have the best footprint in these cities, and are market leaders in those. So I mean, it pays off doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, what I like the most about LuggageHero is the relationship that you create with business owners. It's a company for people and from people. So I think that that's the charming behind everything. I mean, behind the LuggageHero logo. So yeah, and I feel, I don't know if you feel it the same, but now with the pandemic and everything, we just realized that what we have really like in our lives is people that surround you, people that support you, people that make things possible. So I don't know if you think the same, or what's the key of the business.
Is always, I mean, you always stumble upon people who bring you to the next step. And my story about Morten, who was an entrepreneur who kind of led some of my way, it's just one small piece of the story of why it is what it is today. And you need to rely on the things dropping ahead of you, and it always involves people. But you attract these people on your way because you tell them about your dreams, you tell them about your vision. And by doing that, you're inspiring people, and you are attracting their help, you could say. And in this way, it's all about people all the way. For me, LinkedIn is probably one of the things that worked best to attract the team members that I have on now in LuggageHero, because I've been sharing my insights and stories on LinkedIn, and one of my really, really good employees that you know really well as well, what is Julie. And Julie was captured by a video I put up on LinkedIn when I was in US. I had been out running for a morning trip we were staying in Jersey, actually, looking at Manhattan at that time. I had been out running, and I did a video in front of the house that we rented in Jersey, and I was saying, I need an intern. I need an intern as soon as possible. You can go out here, you can be part of a community, you can be part of a family, you can be part of a new journey. Write me an email or LinkedIn. And I mean, this one was just going viral. And Julie was one of them, picking up this message, and she was on a plane to New York 2 weeks later. So yeah.
Judy's amazing.
Thank
Like
you very much.
really, like she organized so well everything. So really, like
Yeah,
I,
she's a true star.
yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the vision now for Luggage Hero for the upcoming months or years?
It's so interesting to see what will happen in the travel industry. I'm so curious to see what will happen on the other side of this. No one really knows, but I know for a fact that we are in a shape now that we are lean as, sorry to say, hell. We are lean as hell. We are fast executors. We're capable of changes more than perhaps bigger travel companies are, and we're ready to these changes that will happen just on the other side of this when travel picks up again, because that's for certain it will. But in what form is the big question. One of the development that we have seen during the pandemic is that short-term rentals are more popular than big hotels. They are easier to get around in. It's easier to get around the whole social distancing thing from people when you're not staying in a hotel, but you stay in an apartment or a house. So this development is actually good nature for our business because we cater the short-term rental industry with our solution, because you don't have a reception where you can leave your stuff on the odd hours of before check-in or after your check-out. So we can actually play a big part and role in this. The big challenge for our part is that the fact that short terms are extremely popular in rural areas, so outside the major cities where we are at the moment. But I do foresee that this is probably more a pandemic issue, because people would go out in rural areas, stay for themselves for a longer time with only their own family. But I think people will still be attracted to going into the major cities once it's allowed again. And especially because that's where there's most things to see, to experience, and also the whole infrastructure of traveling with airports are always centered around the major cities. So I think we will see these destinations pick up very fast again, but it will be interesting to see in what kind of shape it will be and how fast. It's going to be interesting.
Mhm. So what's your vision for Luggage Hero in a year? What do you see?
So my vision is that we're in a state in 1 year from now where we have picked up from where we left in some way. That we are at a state where we are above the index that we left. We were doing really, really well. We had our best month ever in December 2019, and I still dream about that month because we were doing record over record in that year. And December was really just like, that was amazing. So I'm dreaming of getting back to that level, and I think a year from now we'll be at that level, even higher. So that's my vision, and I truly believe we were able to do that because all the work that we've been doing in 2020 on development, we've been able to develop an even better product for our customers, and we're even better at choosing the locations and exact locations for where people can store the luggage. We've been able to foresee that better, and we will be able to predict that better in the coming years. So I have really high expectations for where LuggageHero is 1 year from today.
You know more than anyone that the travel industry, it's been affected. It's been one of the most affected industry by the COVID. So how have you survived to that wave?
How we have survived?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the sad thing is obviously that our whole expansion has been put to a stop. You were part of that quarter, and that was one of the sad things. I mean, but our business is very lean in the way that we're just a software. We don't own any hardware. We don't own any planes, for God's sake. the companies that do so. We're not paying rent for any of our storage locations. We only have an office and we have people, and people is probably the heaviest weight on our shoulders in regard of our expenses and everything. And the sad thing is obviously that we have been shrinking our team. We've shrinked it down to the minimum, and we've been supported by aid from the Danish government, and that has helped us in some ways. But I think the most important things has been that we've always been able to think wisely of what kind of investments we do, what kind of softwares we do. We build most things from bottom, so we're not really relying that much on other services and that we have to pay and uphold. So I mean, that's been one of the surviving tricks, I think, for us. Yeah, if I could travel back in time, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't really know. Maybe I would have liked to live in some of the cities that I've launched. That would have been nice. When I launched London back then, I was thinking about moving to London, but at that time I started my family. My son was 1 year old at that time, and it just didn't really seem intuitively. Then we started New York. I would have liked to live there as well. Julie did that with my co-founder Christian, and they had a good time. But at that time, I had my second child, and now my third child is coming to the world.
No way! Oh, congratulations!
Oh, thank you. So a third boy is coming to the world now. But it's funny about this because you always say, oh, it's not a good timing right now. But the timing always gets worse. So sometimes it's just about doing it without thinking too much about it. So maybe going back in time, I would have perhaps moved to New York. Yeah, that would have been nice.
Actually, you were considering to move to Barcelona. Do you remember that?
Yeah, as well. Yeah, I'm very intrigued by the idea of living in another country than Denmark to test it out, and Barcelona is certainly on my list as well. And I'm so excited about Barcelona as a city. My co-founder is actually living in Barcelona right now, so there's an even better reason for why I should do it too.
Okay, yeah. Goals for 2021.
Yeah, could be.
Okay, I just want to end up this interview asking you a question. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the requirement that you asked me for the last day that I was in Copenhagen a year ago?
Yeah. I remember it. So I remember that I asked you to be able to get yourself on an even higher level, where you were able to execute the brand heroes and learn brand heroes how to actually perform what you have been doing so successfully. And I think one of the reasons is that, and it comes back to also managing a company, that you are doing stuff in the beginning, which it's all dependent on you. The success is only dependent on you. And when you've done things a lot of times and you're really committed to it, you become master at it. But when you master something, your job is actually not necessarily to continue doing it because you've reached a level of doing it. But when you master stuff, you need to learn other people about it, because in that way, you can scale your knowledge and skill, and you can do it at scale. And that means that you can copy yourself like 10, 100 times or 1,000 times. And that is the true key to success in my mind, that you are able to learn other people about what you've learned and create that success. So yes, that was what I was telling you a year ago.
Yeah, so you're right. You remember. I thought that you maybe didn't, but yeah, no. That was exactly right. So what I told you by then, it's that I can teach people how to sell better, because or you know how to do it or you don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. But since then, I've been thinking and I've been working on it. And now I can say that I found a way to make it possible. So thank you for challenging me and to make me better and to reach other level, because that's what a leader does, not a boss. So
thank you. Well,
thank you very
that's
much.
good for you. That's good for you. I'm happy to hear that.
So last question. That's gonna
Yep.
be the last question. If you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
I would go to Thailand, and I was actually in Thailand in Christmas last year, and it's a weird place to be during Christmas. They celebrate Christmas in a different way than we do, certainly, but I have a great love for Thailand, and for some it's a little bit of a cliche to say Thailand. They want to say something more exotic like Cambodia, Laos, or Vietnam, or something like that. But I've been at all those places, and I like all those places as well. But Thailand is truly heaven for families. And my kids, they love Thailand. My kid is always talking about, oh, when are we moving to Thailand? My oldest kid, Julius, he's 5, and he want to move to Thailand. He's talking about it every time. So I would I would definitely say Thailand. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just said that they celebrate Christmas differently that you do, but nowadays, what is different?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
this situation and what
everything is upside down anyway, so it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, Jannik, thank you very much for the time and for your answers. I think that it was great. And it's been always a pleasure to meet you, to talk with you. And I truly desire you the best because you deserve it. So
thank you, brother. Yes, but I hope you got a lot out of it, and you can use it in whatever way. Yeah,
I will. Okay, Jannik, I don't want to take more time from you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And keep me updated. Like if I can help anyway in your business, I have a special love for LuggageHero and for the family, LuggageHero family. So yeah, I would be great if I can help you somehow.
Yeah, I will certainly think about you, but there's no question about it, for sure. And I think there will be a time, perhaps in mid 2021. I think.
Yeah. Let's hope. You have to move to Barcelona and go to Thailand. So
that could be good. Yeah, that could be good. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much again.
Yeah. Bye.